Chosen one, slow down for just a moment and stay right here, because something that should not have happened is already in motion, and whether you fully grasp it or not, the outcome depends on your attention right now. Somewhere, someone you have never spoken to, never touched, never locked eyes with, has already moved their hand and released something into your direction. Something far larger than logic would allow. Something that made even the systems pause before letting it pass through. You almost ignored it. You nearly brushed it away as noise, as another meaningless alert in a world full of distractions. But this one was different. Even if you could not immediately explain why, your body reacted before your mind did. That subtle tightening in your chest, that flicker of alertness, that instinctive feeling that said this moment matters. It was not imagination. It was recognition. Do not rush. Do not scroll. Not yet. Because the moment you disengage, you lose the thread of what is unfolding. And this is one of those rare moments where timing is everything. The universe does not whisper at random. It does not send shockwaves without purpose. When something this disproportionate arrives, when an action this bold breaks through the normal order of things, it is never empty. There is always meaning woven into the act, layered beneath the surface, waiting for the one it was meant for to stay long enough to see it clearly. Someone you do not know sent you money, yes, but that is only the outer shell of what happened. The deeper truth is far more unsettling and far more powerful. That person did not wake up and choose chaos. They did not misclick. They did not guess. They paused. They hesitated. They considered backing out. And still, something in them would not let it go. Something kept returning your name to their awareness, your presence to their thoughts. Even if they could not explain how they knew of you at all. It felt inevitable to them, like finishing a sentence that had been left incomplete for too long. Stay with this. Do not let your mind race ahead yet. There is a reason this is landing now, not earlier, not later. You are standing at a precise intersection in your life, one that only exists for a brief window, and the fact that you are here, reading this, feeling the weight of it, is not coincidence. Most people would have dismissed the signal. Most people would have numbed themselves and moved on. But you didn't. Even now, something is holding you here, and that something is not fear. It is resonance. The amount itself was unusual, enough to raise flags, enough to make the system double-check before allowing it through, as if even the algorithm sensed that this was outside the ordinary flow. And yet it passed. It was approved. It moved. That alone should tell you something. Barriers did not stop it. Doubt did not cancel it. Resistance did not block it. It arrived because it was meant to arrive. But listen carefully. Because here is where most people misunderstand what moments like this are really about. This was never just about money. Money is only the language used because it is loud enough to break through disbelief. What was actually sent was acknowledgement, proof, confirmation, a silent message that says, "I see you," spoken by someone who recognized a familiar frequency, a signal only carried by those who have endured pressure without surrendering their core. You may not realize how visible your struggle has been, even in your silence. You think your battles were private, that the nights you pushed through exhaustion, the mornings you forced yourself upright when hope felt thin, went unnoticed. They didn't. Energy leaves, trails. Persistence emits a signature. And there are people in this world who can feel it without needing the details, without needing the story spelled out. They recognize it the way one storm survivor recognizes another, without words. That person saw something in you that reminded them of a moment in their own life when someone else intervened, not to rescue them, but to acknowledge them. This is how these things move. Not randomly, not chaotically, but through an invisible chain of recognition that links one resilient soul to another across time and distance. Do not skip now. This is the part where the truth tightens. The transfer came with a window. Not a technical one alone, but an energetic one. Attention matters here. Presence matters. When you stay, when you fully receive the moment instead of rushing past it, you align yourself with what comes next. When you dismiss it, you break the circuit. That is why it feels urgent. Not threatening, but alive. As if the moment itself is watching to see whether you are willing to meet it fully. You can feel it, can't you? That strange mix of disbelief and certainty. The sense that something is about to turn, that the ground beneath you is subtly rearranging. This is what it feels like when a cycle closes and another opens. The person who sent this did not do it impulsively. They watched from afar, not in a way that invades or violates, but in the way life sometimes allows two paths to run parallel without touching. They noticed patterns. They sensed timing. They waited until you were tired but not defeated, stretched thin but still standing. That exact balance matters more than you know. That is when intervention works. Too early and it is wasted. Too late and it cannot land. Here is the part that changes everything. The money is real, but it is not the main event. The main event is what it unlocks in you. The shift in self-perception. The crack in the old narrative that told you nothing ever breaks in your favor. Someone just proved that narrative wrong with action, not words. And now, whether you consciously choose it or not, something inside you has already begun recalibrating. Your nervous system is responding. Your sense of what is possible is stretching. You are stepping out of contraction and into expansion, even if part of you is still trying to argue with it. Do not leave yet. The deepest layer is still coming. There was an instruction embedded in the act itself, not written, not spoken, but transmitted through intention. It is simple, and it is heavy. This was not meant to stop with you. Not in the sense of giving it away immediately, but in the sense of letting it change the way you move through the world. Letting it expand your capacity instead of shrinking it with fear. Letting it turn you into someone who recognizes value, who acts when others hesitate, who becomes proof that moments like this are real. You are not being positioned as a passive recipient. You are being initiated as a conduit. What flows to you is meant to flow through you into the next version of your life, amplifying your ability to build, to create, to choose differently. And this is where the test appears. Doubt will try to enter. It always does. It will whisper that this is too much, too strange, too good to trust. That voice is not truth. It is the final gate. And gates only appear before thresholds. Stay, because what comes next is not subtle. Within days, you will notice alignment stacking on top of alignment. Conversations that answer unspoken questions. Opportunities that appear without warning. Doors that seemed sealed beginning to loosen. These are not separate events. They are part of the same wave. The money was the first visible crest. More follows. The stranger knew this. That is why they acted when they did. They were not trying to save you. They were acknowledging that you had already saved yourself more times. They were saying, "I see your strength. I trust your direction." And now, the final truth. You were never alone. Even when it felt like the universe had gone quiet, it was watching. Timing things, waiting for readiness, sending help through unexpected hands at precise moments. This transfer is proof of that invisible support system. So stay grounded, receive fully. Let this change the way you see yourself, because it already has. This is not the end. This is the opening. Stay exactly where you are, because the moment after recognition is always the most delicate. And this is where meaning either deepens or dissolves depending on what you choose to do with your attention. You might feel the urge to question everything now, to dissect it, to test it for flaws, to see if there is some hidden trick, some explanation that will make it smaller, safer, easier to categorize. That impulse is natural. It is the mind trying to regain control when something exceeds its usual boundaries. But do not let it pull you away yet. There is more unfolding beneath the surface, and it requires your presence, not your analysis. Right now, something subtle is happening inside you. Even if you cannot name it, your internal posture has shifted. The way you are sitting, the way you are breathing, the way your thoughts are lining up, you are not in the same internal position you were before this moment began. That is how you know this is real. False signals do not create internal reorientation. They fade. This does not fade. It sharpens. The universe rarely shouts. When it does, it is because the message cannot wait. And this was a shout disguised as a transaction, a jolt strong enough to cut through fatigue, distraction, and disbelief all at once. The timing was not random. Look back honestly. Think about where you were emotionally just before this appeared. The weariness, the quiet thought of, I don't know how much longer I can keep pushing like this. Not spoken aloud, maybe not even fully formed, but present. That was the signal you sent without realizing it. And signals like that do not go unanswered forever. They are picked up by forces you cannot see, by people you may never meet, by patterns that move far beyond individual intention. This is where things get uncomfortable for logic, because logic wants a straight line, a clear cause and effect. What happened here is more like convergence. Multiple invisible threads tightening at the same moment until action became unavoidable. The person who sent you this did not feel heroic while doing it. They felt compelled, almost restless until it was done. That is how you know it was guided. When the ego is involved, there is pride, hesitation, performance. When alignment is involved, there is relief after the act, not before. A sense of completion, as if something that had been hovering unresolved finally clicked into place. You were part of that resolution. Do not underestimate what that means. There is a reason this did not arrive during a time when everything was already working. It came when you were strong enough to receive without collapsing, but humble enough to be changed by it. Those two conditions rarely coexist. When they do, acceleration follows. This is the part most people never hear. Blessings do not only arrive to improve circumstances, they arrive to recalibrate identity. And identity is the real battleground. The old version of you learned how to survive, how to endure, how to manage scarcity, how to keep expectations low enough to avoid disappointment. That version kept you alive. Honor it. But it is not meant to lead you forward anymore. This moment marks a transition. Subtle, but irreversible if you allow it. The transition from surviving to building, from enduring to expanding, from quietly hoping to deliberately expecting. You may feel resistance to that idea, a tightening, a thought that says, but what if this is the only time? That thought is the residue of the old cycle. It is understandable. It is also outdated. Cycles end when their lessons are integrated. You have integrated this one. That is why something new is pushing through. Notice how your attention keeps returning here. That is not accident. When truth is present, attention naturally gravitates toward it. When something is false, attention wanders. You are still here because some part of you recognizes that this is a threshold moment, and thresholds demand witnessing. Now listen carefully, because this is important. What you do next matters more than what you received. Not in a moral sense, but in an energetic one. Gratitude is not enough. Appreciation is not enough. Those are passive states. What is required now is alignment, acting as if this confirmation is real, making decisions from the assumption that momentum is now on your side, speaking to yourself differently, planning differently, allowing yourself to imagine outcomes that previously felt irresponsible or unrealistic. This is where many people unconsciously sabotage themselves. They receive a sign and then immediately rush to shrink it, to neutralize its impact by telling themselves it doesn't mean anything. That response feels safe, but it closes doors. Doors that were opening precisely because you were finally ready to walk through them. Do not do that now. Instead, stay with the sensation of expansion. Let it inform you. Let it change your posture toward the future. You do not need to announce anything. You do not need to convince anyone else. This is internal, quiet, powerful. The stranger did not send this to be praised or acknowledged. They sent it trusting that you would understand what it represents. A transfer of confidence, a vote of belief, a signal that your trajectory is visible, even when progress feels slow from the inside. There is another layer here, one that often goes unnoticed. The act of receiving well is just as rare as the act of giving. Receiving well does not mean feeling lucky or grateful alone. It means allowing the gift to elevate you rather than burden you with fear of loss. It means not shrinking back into old limitations out of habit. You are being asked to receive fully, and as you do, something else will become clear. This was not an endpoint. It was a marker, a flag planted in your timeline that says, from here onward, things move differently. You may not see immediate fireworks. That is not how real shifts usually work. What you will notice instead is steadiness, clarity, a subtle but persistent sense that you are no longer pushing against life, but moving with it, that you are being met halfway more often, that obstacles resolve faster, that help appears before desperation sets in. This is the echo of alignment, and it will test you, because alignment demands responsibility. You will be nudged to act when it feels uncomfortable, to choose growth over familiarity, to say yes to opportunities that stretch you. These nudges are not random. They are the continuation of what began with that transfer. Remember this when doubt surfaces. Remember that this started with action, not theory. Someone acted on faith in you before you fully acted on faith in yourself. That changes the equation. You are no longer waiting for permission. You have been given confirmation. Stay with this truth. Let it settle deep, beyond excitement, beyond fear, into certainty. Because certainty does not shout. It anchors. And from an anchored place, everything you build next will stand stronger than anything you built before. Do not rush away from this moment. Let it complete its work inside you. Because what comes after this depends on how fully you allow this one to land. Do not release your focus yet, because after certainty settles, something quieter but far more powerful begins to rise. And this is the phase most people miss entirely. Excitement fades quickly, fear spikes loudly, but integration moves slowly and deeply, reshaping you from the inside without asking for permission. This is where the real transformation happens, not in the moment of impact, but in what follows when the noise drops and you are left alone with the truth of what just occurred. You may notice a strange calm starting to replace the initial surge. Not indifference, not dismissal, but a grounded stillness, as if something heavy you had been carrying unconsciously has been set down. That weight was the constant expectation of struggle, the belief that every step forward would require disproportionate effort, that ease was something meant for other people. That belief is loosening now. It does not shatter all at once. It softens, cracks, then gradually releases its grip. This is important to understand, because ease does not announce itself dramatically. It enters quietly, testing whether you will allow it to stay. Part of you may instinctively brace, waiting for the other shoe to drop. That reflex was learned through experience. It kept you alert in hard seasons. But that season is ending, and reflexes that once protected you can now block what is trying to arrive. The stranger's action disrupted more than your expectations. It disrupted a pattern, a long-standing rhythm of effort without acknowledgement, of output without reinforcement. Patterns persist until something interrupts them strongly enough to force reevaluation. This was that interruption. And now, life will begin to respond differently to you. Not because the world changed overnight, but because you did. Your internal calibration shifted. You are no longer emitting the frequency of someone waiting to be seen. You are emitting the frequency of someone who has been recognized. That distinction matters. People respond to it. Opportunities respond to it. Even resistance responds differently. You will notice that things which once felt like uphill battles no longer drain you in the same way. Not because they disappear, but because your relationship to them changes. There is a reason this did not happen earlier in your life. Earlier versions of you would have doubted themselves into paralysis, or felt unworthy and sabotaged the momentum. You needed time to become stable enough, strong enough, self-aware enough to hold what is now unfolding without collapsing under its weight. This is readiness. Readiness is not perfection. It is capacity. The capacity to receive without guilt, to move without apology, to grow without needing validation from those who never saw your struggle in the first place. You are stepping into that capacity now. Pay attention to what surfaces in the coming days. Old habits may attempt to reassert themselves. Old voices, internal or external, may question whether you deserve this, whether it will last, whether you should trust it. These are not signs of failure. They are remnants leaving the system. They surface because they no longer belong. Let them pass. There is something else happening that you may not consciously notice at first. Your sense of time is shifting. Urgency is being replaced by direction, panic by precision. You will feel less rushed, even as movement accelerates. That is alignment at work. When you are aligned, you do not need to force speed. Momentum carries you. The stranger understood this. That is why their action was not reckless. It was timed. It was placed like a weight on a lever at the exact point where the smallest effort creates the largest movement. You were that lever point. That is not flattery. It is mechanics. And now the lever has been pressed. This does not mean everything ahead will be easy. Growth never is. But difficulty will no longer feel pointless. Challenges will come with clarity attached. Problems will arrive with solutions already forming nearby. You will sense when to push and when to wait, when to speak and when to stay silent. This discernment is new for you, or at least newly accessible. Trust it. There is also a responsibility embedded in this moment, one that does not demand sacrifice, but awareness. You are now part of a chain. Someone once stepped in for the stranger when they needed it. Now they have stepped in for you. This does not obligate you to repay them. It invites you to recognize when it is your turn to act from alignment rather than fear. That moment will come. It may not involve money. It may involve time, attention, encouragement, or simply seeing someone when no one else does. When that moment arrives, you will recognize it instantly, because it will feel familiar. It will feel like this. That is how the pattern continues. But for now, your task is simpler. Do not rush to explain this away. Do not minimize it. Do not file it under coincidence and move on as if nothing shifted. Something did shift. Deeply. Permanently. Let yourself operate from that truth. You will notice changes in how you speak about yourself, even internally. Less self-negotiation, less justification, more quiet confidence. This is not arrogance. It is alignment settling into identity.